Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap of Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today we talking about the Ravens versus Chiefs. And I know you thinking, what does this have to do with the Bears? But it does. It absolutely does. We're gonna get into some real deal football today, as we usually do. We are going to dig into this today because there's a lot to be taken from this game. Now, realize that this is not the first time that we've had this discussion, at least in terms of a game. This isn't the first time a game brought together a discussion like this. And I say that because many people could look at this and say, this is the battle of this is the battle of philosophies. And in some ways, some people will say this is the battle of Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields. And let me just say, I hate myself that I'm turning this into a Bears conversation like that, but it's true. It's true. So I don't hate myself too much because it's a real discussion. This is a discussion of the quarterback that, yes, in the new age will extend the play, will be able to do some things off schedule, but at the core knows how to operate in the pocket offense, versus somebody who has pocket ability but still likes to improvise as their main way of winning. And so I do think it's relevant to the conversation. I do want to point out things. It's just it is just the scholar in me. The biases or perceived biases. Like, if you listen to me enough, you'll know, obviously, we got a channel troll who thinks I hate Lamar. There's people who think I hate Lamar. I don't hate Lamar. And there's not anything in me that's like, hey, I want this to win because I want to be right. No, football is football. And I, in my experience, have not been proven wrong in terms of what the game is. And I don't know anybody that coaches that's been proven wrong. The game is the game. And so the game has new wrinkles today, but it's the game. And so I have no skin, I have no reward, I have no anything to be like, yeah, Lamar lost. None of that exists. So we just want to put that on the table there. All right, so let's talk about this. Number one, we want to get all the rumors and the wrong information, the misinformation out the way. I said for a long time, I did not have anything against Lamar. I'm just pointing out the truth of what I see. Now, with Lamar, there is a double standard. There's a bias. There's a lot of that going on. Why do I think that is? Mainly, I think it's the race narrative, to be honest. And as you know, if you listen to my non-sports stuff, look, I am 100% an advocate. I'm 100% somebody that supports and works for the equity, diversity, and all that. So I have nothing against that, but there are examples where people take things, they use that to make incorrect arguments. And I think that's what happened with Lamar, because Lamar was told that he should be a receiver or he should try out as a receiver because of all these different things. And Lamar was taken 32nd and he won MVP so young. People try to pile on to that narrative as if, oh, it's because he's black, even though there's plenty of examples of black or people with mixed ethnicity that didn't apply to. They try to apply that to Lamar. And Baltimore is a super black city, so it just all works. And so people pile onto that narrative to make it seem as if people are hating Lamar, doubting Lamar. Now, the truth of the matter is, we could get into it with numbers. We can get into it with film. We can get into it all types of ways. I'll be very honest just to set the context, because I want you to understand my discussion about the game of football without being distracted by Lamar. When I watched Lamar coming out, and I got my notes, I could pull them out and all that. My thought was he didn't have a prototypical arm. Now, at the time, it was number one, me not being the type of evaluator I am today, where you got to know what you're looking for. Like today, what I'm looking for, as I mentioned before, are traits that project into, okay, I have this type of system, those traits work. And so depending on where this person goes and the right fit, they can do this. Back then, it was more so, is this player good or are they bad? And that's where casual fans are. And I had to grow from that. So back then, if you didn't have a certain skill set, it was harshly graded. And so even Josh Allen, coming out of Wyoming, very opposite of Lamar, had an arm that was probably the best we've ever seen. And it was just like, no, he's not going to make it because he doesn't have all these other things. So it's not white versus black. It's not, strong arm versus weak arm. It's just that Lamar didn't have the arm to make certain throws, and he didn't read defenses, blah, blah, blah. Much like the conversation with Justin Fields. And so the thing is, the Ravens did something that isn't new to football, but it was newer to the NFL. They completely changed their offense to something that was more high school, college style, so they could get the best out of Lamar. And as I tell you, confidence is key. He got confidence. Obviously, he won MVP, but the NFL adjusts. They understand, they study, and after that, the stuff Lamar was doing was not dominating anymore. He had 1 year of domination, and even then they got to the playoffs and got messed up. But domination, like, I'm not saying he's not effective, I'm not saying he can't put up numbers, but domination, they had that 1 year, and after that people figured it out. So then we get here, and I heard people talking all week and everything. What did people figure out? Don't look like they figured it out to me. So the thing with Lamar that I'll get to later is that people like to really imply a double standard. But anyway, so my thing with Lamar has always been style. And I talked about this with Caleb Williams, and I talked about this with Justin Fields. Now, Caleb Williams is not Patrick Mahomes 2.0. Patrick Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech wasn't even this Mahomes, obviously. So it's not necessarily, can you just go out there and do what you did as Caleb Williams? Again, it's not a discussion of translation. It's a discussion of projection. With this skill set, you might be able to do what Mahomes has become, which is know how to play within the system, how to play outside of the system, and when to do the two different things. So that's a big conversation. That's the big difference. So I'm not saying Caleb Williams is this, because then people go back and like, look, Caleb Williams didn't do what Mahomes did. We're not talking about that. But then you talk about Justin Fields and Lamar, and funny enough, it's just weird. They're very different in their trajectory, because Justin Fields was in college playing a very different style that then he is now morphed because of what the Bears did to him. So anyway, but that's the two philosophies we're talking about. So it was never against Lamar. There's no reason. I don't know Lamar. Why would I hate Lamar? Obviously, our channel troll will tell you I hate black quarterbacks, which is ridiculous. Patrick Mahomes obviously half black. And then we got a number of other examples. So it's just like, I have no reason to hate Lamar. I'm just telling you what I see. And sure enough, after Lamar's playoff collapse, I believe the Chargers was the first one. And then after that, he just continued to not play well. And then last year, he played a different style where I said Lamar and other people have said this, which is why I don't get why people get mad. He forced himself to be more of a pocket passer. He said he has to change his game. That was him, not me. And I told you he didn't look good doing it. And then this year he got better. I give him respect for the steps he took. Obviously bringing in a different couple weapons added to that. The offensive coordinator change, I think, was a little overblown because, the fans change every 15 minutes. So first, Lamar won an MVP and he's great, but the coach that coached him to that MVP, he's outdated and he's terrible. We gotta get a new MVP or a new offensive coordinator. Doesn't make sense to me. So then you bring a new one. Oh, this guy's great. He's clearly changed Lamar. I'm like, I don't know. I watched the games. I don't think the system is super different. And then on top of that, I don't think the way he's playing is different, except that, again, he's forcing himself to be more patient, stay in the pocket. And so why that's not working, there's a whole different discussion, but we're not going to get into that. That's just kind of where we are today. So then, again, outside of Lamar, what is the discussion? The discussion for me, as I've said all year, and I've said with other teams that weren't, obviously, they don't have Lamar. It is about the style. You look at the game flow. If you've been listening to me closely this year, you know I've been giving more and more stock to game flow. And at this point, I'm pretty confident in telling you that the game flow gives you a lot of the information. And so when I mean by game flow, you're looking at the possessions. You can check my tweets. I said it before the game. I said the first 4 possessions are going to tell you all you need to know about this game. And I felt that way before I tweeted that. I actually was thinking the first 2, but I said maybe you got to go more. But my first thought was, and this is before I knew anything, I said if the Ravens get the ball and don't score, they got to punt. Whatever they are, they got to punt. And the Chiefs go down and score, the game's over. And then I said that's a little too premature. We got to look at the first 4 possessions. Because if that happens and then the Chiefs or the Ravens don't respond on the 3rd possession and then the Chiefs go score again, it's 14-0, I'm like, that's the game. It's over. But also to the same point, if the Ravens do score, then the Chiefs score, or vice versa, it's tied and then we keep going. Or if the Chiefs get the ball, they can't score, and the Ravens score, that's a totally different game. And that's my point, is just like, you have to look at the Ravens and what they do and how they do it. Or I should say how they do it. Because as I've always said, what you do is not as important as how you do it. And so you look at the Ravens team, and I said this, very similar to Cleveland, very similar to San Fran, even though they blew San Fran out. My thing is, had that game been the opposite in terms of turnovers and all that, the Ravens would have looked just like the 49ers. I keep saying this, and the difference is that, so now we're going to get into some football. But my point is, I've been saying all season, Lamar's success has been predicated on the defense. Now, we can do the quarterback thing where it doesn't matter what happens, we're going to get a quarterback credit if we like them. That's the narrative. We can also do the thing where, again, the quarterback made the receivers, whatever. We try to put everything in the quarterback's hands. And obviously the Ravens won the most, had the best wins, so the MVP talk, even though it was very clear the MVP this year was not a given. But we're going to give it to Lamar anyway, even though his numbers aren't crazy. And I don't care too much about the MVP and numbers, but it's just another example. So now we go from that, and the discussion turns into, again, this is predicated off the defense. When you get a situation where the Ravens are up, now, just off pure objective facts, you have a two-way go. You don't know if we're going to run, play action, deep pass, short pass. You don't know any of that because we're up and we can do what we want. Now we can utilize Lamar's strength in running. He can throw the ball. We can use it in short field and let our athletes do the thing. It gives us more options. And that's not Lamar specifically. That's not the Ravens. That's any team built like them, which is why I said the 49ers are the same. If they are up and they avalanche you because they have options. But when the defense is not giving you turnovers, when you don't have a short field, when you're down and you don't have the lead, what can your offense do? I've been saying it forever and I've been saying it all year, and we saw it again today. We saw it with the 49ers. Purdy gave the ball away. Ravens had short fields. Lamar cashed in. And then the 49ers didn't have an answer. And obviously, I'm not saying that was the same game today, but it was the same exact concept. Because Lamar, to his credit and to the luck of the Ravens, they didn't give the ball away as much as they almost did. And that's why I always say numbers never tell the story. You can look at the numbers, and I'm sure there's, apologists that's going to be like, well, they only lost by 7. You acting like they're getting blown out. That's not the point. How much they lost by is not the point of what the final score, the stats say. The stats aren't going to tell you that Lamar almost threw an interception while falling down to McDuffie. They're not going to tell you that he almost threw an interception across the middle to Bolton. They're not going to tell you, is honestly not even going to tell you that Lamar got sacked, fumbled, and then the Chiefs were in the red zone but didn't convert a 4th down. They would have flipped this game to a 14-point game where points were scarce. It's not going to tell you any of that unless you watched it. So it was worse than what the numbers will tell you. But it goes back to my point. What happens when you aren't getting those short fields? When the other team does have more points than you? When your defense is not giving you takeaways? What can you do? And if it sounds familiar, it's because the Bears have heard it many times recently. And when the defense was quote unquote the worst in the league, and remember a lot of y'all and people said that, and then at the end of the year you somehow said we got top 5 defense, and I was the one telling you defense is not as bad as it actually people making it seem. But remember, y'all were doing that, and so it was like Justin has to make a huge play. He has to make a huge play, and you put too much on the offense to have to then convert and then or make big plays because they can't consistently convert and they can't march down the field. And so that came into play today. And for me, I think it's pretty obvious. Again, this isn't a Ravens thing. It's not a Lamar thing. Brock Purdy is not Justin Fields. He's not a running quarterback. And yet I'm saying the same thing about his offense. The thing is the play style. It is what it is. When you are a team where you're a front runner, that's how it goes. Last thing I'll say about that is the defense. I literally said this multiple times, just like the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns went to Houston, and Houston was able to score on them. And people are like, whoa, this Browns defense is historic. Besides the numbers, which are completely, a different conversation, I told you, they're a mainly blitzing team. And the thing about a mainly blitzing team, when you're winning off blitzing, that creates an overall team pressure. It's manufactured. So whether you're getting tackles for loss in a run, whether you're getting sacks or pressure, it's manufactured pressure, which isn't bad. But what happens is that works well when you're ahead. That works well when the team is in pass mode. It doesn't work well when you're behind. It doesn't work well when you got to stop first downs and they know what you're doing. In the moments where you say, oh crap, we got to play zone or we got to play man coverage, or we have to do something where we get pressure with 4 people, that's when it all falls apart. Now, it's not across the board, because Myles Garrett, pressure or not, he's that guy. But what happens with teams like the Ravens and other teams is you're putting them in position to look good. So when everybody times the blitz well and they do what their job is, you make a play and people are like, oh, they're so good. But when you have to do 4 pass rushers or 3, or you realize like we can't blitz, then you find out, oh crap, we really don't have a guy. Or if you're the Browns, we got a guy and they're putting double, triple teams on him and nobody else is doing nothing. And so then in those situations, you're not performing like people used to. So that's why you see the Ravens, who I got to give a major shout out real quick about Roquan. That guy's a Hall of Famer, different level, should have stayed with the Bears. And shout out to the Ravens in general, because even though I'm saying all this, the discipline, the lack of mental mistakes, the tackling, the intensity, all of that is what makes a great defense. And they are a great defense. I'm not saying they're not, but there are certain things that win more. When we have this conversation about people who extend the play and make crazy plays versus somebody that can make plays in the pocket, there is one that objectively has a better probability of winning, because the game is science. It's inches and it's seconds. Someone that can play within the pocket on time is going to have a better probability to win consistently versus somebody that is looking for big plays. Same thing with the defense. Yes, blitzing and being a blitz crazy defense can work and it can have great results, but consistently against any opponent, is it as good as somebody that can get pressure with 4? No, which is why I take the 49ers over the Ravens and all that. Barring injury and all that. But the difference between the 49ers, when we're talking about best defense, is that they can put max coverage out there because they have a guy that is going to eat. And if you double, triple team them, they got other guys that can eat. And that is the difference. So people look at the numbers and be like, oh, there's not much difference. It ain't about the numbers. It's about how you do it. And so the style is more consistent. If I can get consistent pressure or better pressure than you with less people, that's always going to be better. And so that is just a discussion of style. So today you saw what I've been saying all year about Cleveland. You saw it against Houston. What I've been saying all year about the Ravens. When you have a team like that and you can't blitz the way you do, the thing that is going to happen is that you got to play zone. And so we're going to play zone and we're going to try to get after you. And you find out you don't have the guys that can create pressure by themselves. And now the quarterback can pick you apart because he's got time. Or you play man. And the quarterback, if he's smart like Mahomes, will pick you apart by running. Because none of these guys are creating pressure. They got all day. And that's what Mahomes had in the first half. So much so much time to do what he wanted. And so that is the philosophy on defense. But either way, we get to the end of this. Now, this is the part where I could say people will say I'm hating on Lamar, but it's just true. The narratives don't make sense to me. With Lamar, people excuse things for Lamar that they don't excuse with other quarterbacks. And as I said, that's why it's narratives. People pick and choose when they want to apply certain things. I look at Lamar and the contradiction of he is an MVP because he showed that he can do it and he doesn't even have a lot of talent. His best target, Andrews, is gone. But yet all year, people have also said the offense has changed and it's evolved and Lamar's evolved. They got pass catchers and that's the difference of this year and why the Ravens are so good. Wait, what? How is it that he's got pass catchers and weapons and they decided to give him weapons this year, but also at the same time, you telling me that he doesn't have weapons and that's why he's the MVP because he's making it work? That doesn't make sense to me. And then even before this year, Lamar has always been, he don't have weapons. He don't really have weapons like that. The system is limiting him, but yet that was the system that got him an MVP. Another contradiction. But yet, and Mahomes too. Mahomes in terms of he doesn't have weapons this year. They should have kept Tyreek, all that. Or his tackles aren't the same. Or even Lamar in the Super Bowl. Oh, the Bucs killed them because they didn't have anybody blocking for him. But yet, Daniel Jones doesn't get that. And I get it. Daniel Jones is white. Pat Mahomes is not. Neither is Lamar. So people going to try to run with that. But that's fine. Again, there's quarterbacks that I like and dislike across the board. I like Daniel Jones. And I just feel like it is so different that people give passes to certain people. Because Lamar, credit to him, he never had the supporting cast in terms of pass catchers that Mahomes ever had. But yet at the same time, he never ran a system like Mahomes. Mahomes never had the type of blocking and run game that Lamar had. Also, don't run that same system. Daniel Jones has had none of that. And then this year, after the money where people scrutinize you, he played most of his games without Saquon. So you don't even have your biggest weapon. The O-line is the worst in the league, and your third receiver is your top receiver. So I don't get the double standard of how people try to judge people. But that's me throwing my own little thing in there. So anyway, to wrap it up and bring it back to the Bears. Mahomes, you got zone. And Mahomes is going to pick you apart. He's got time, and they got zone beaters. They got guys that know how to set on his zone. You do man, or you blitz, I should say. He's going to kill you. He's one of the best in the world against the blitz. And then, because he knows where to go, he knows how to put the ball there with accuracy and power. You got man. He's learned over this year and last year to really take advantage of it, and he's going to scramble and he's going to pick up yards. And so that then puts the defense in a bad situation. Even though they tackled well and they did about as much as they can do except take the ball away. And so they did as much as they can do, but Mahomes was still able to beat them enough to win the game. Versus a Lamar where you got missed sack, put it down the field, Zay Flowers, amazing MVP play. A couple other missed sacks, get some yards or whatever, and it's hard to take him down. It's hard to defend the second play. It's hard when he wants to even take a sneak and he can go 20 yards. It's hard, and he's effective. But in those moments where you have to actually play quarterback, he doesn't have that yet. In terms of not only, because again, if the Chiefs cashed in on that fumble, it's 21-7 or 17-7. And then if they cash in on the other turnovers, it's over. But even with the game still close, Lamar missing so many passes and then threw an interception. So again, philosophy-wise, it is what it is. And I think you have some people hanging their hat on the Ravens and how much they win to make an excuse or a case for Justin. And I don't think that's smart, but also I think you look at today and it's proven out. It's proven out. It's a game of inches and seconds. Point blank, period. The Ravens, you could argue with the way the game went, they just didn't have enough time. Now, that's not true. That's not the full story, but you could argue that. And the reason they didn't have enough time is because they couldn't convert, they couldn't put up points, and they ran out of time. And that's why I say it's a game of inches and seconds. And somebody that can make plays from the pocket, make good decisions, take care of the ball, they're just going to give you more than what people are looking for from the new style run it and improvise quarterback. Even though, again, respect to Lamar, I think he's pushing himself to grow beyond that. But the arm talent, the accuracy, the reading the coverage, it is what it is. It is what it is. So that's it for me. Go down comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And remember, stay up and bear down.